Welcome to another edition of Husker Huddle presented by Sapp Brothers. I'm your host, Jeremiah Sirles. Today we are joined by a good friend of mine, a former teammate of mine, playing on a former team of mine, Minnesota Vikings running back, Ameer Abdullah. How you doing, Ameer?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Oh, hanging in here, keeping it well, holding it down here in Lincoln. Where are you at nowadays?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm down in the South, back closer to home, closer to my family. It's cool, man. It's not bad.
Yeah, well, let's jump right into it here, Ameer. You're back with the Vikings for the second year now, going into year 6 in the league, correct?
6, man.
Man, time flies, time flies. So let's go back a little bit and talk about last year. You got to the Vikings right about week 1, correct?
Well, this is actually like my 2.5 year.
Okay.
So I got to the Vikings midway in my 4th year, right before, like October, and then I re-signed with them that following year. Then I just re-signed another 1-year deal with them this year.
Yeah, I mean, I was up there. I love Minnesota up there. It's a great. I mean, talk a little bit about your experience, what it's like to be up there playing with guys like Kirk Cousins. You got Dalvin Cook, one of the top running backs in the league in that room with you. What's it like up there playing for the Purple?
Man, first and foremost, the fans are amazing. The fans are probably the closest thing to like Husker fans that you can find in the league, which obviously no one's really close to Husker Nation, man. No one shows up like them. I can remember all the bowl games we went to, San Diego, Orlando, Jacksonville, wherever. They always showed up. But Minnesota is very much like the same. We were out in Kansas City this past season, and just seeing how much purple was in the crowd really gave us a big boost, man. We didn't come out with the win, but just knowing that you got the purple faithful behind you every single game, first and foremost, is always amazing. And then, obviously, playing with just great players, man. Our defense is star-studded. They've done a good job keeping this defense together for a few years. Offense, we're adding a few key pieces. Had a really good draft, in my opinion. And like you said, I'm playing with some absolute studs. Kirk Cousins has proven himself, really took a leap in his game, in my opinion, last season. And then I think Dalvin Cook did the same thing. I know he had a couple years where he couldn't stay healthy, and this is the first year he can kind of really put it all together. And you can see how dangerous he can be if he can stay healthy for a full season.
Yeah, I mean, I think people really underestimate how hard it is to stay healthy for a full 16 NFL game schedule. You and I both had our fair share of dings. I mean, it's one of the harder things to do in life, and so to see Dalvin put together a good campaign last year was big. I mean, you played a big special teams role on that team last year, kick returner. I saw you lay the wood against some guys out there on punt return, just hammering guys. I mean, your role has shifted a little bit on that team as far as you become a leader on the special teams there. How did you step into that role, and how's that affected your game?
Man, I just did whatever the coaches asked me to do. You know, I look at Minnesota as definitely as like a transitional for me. Obviously, it's a lesser role than what I'm used to, especially in Detroit being the starter there. But it's a good opportunity to kind of reinvent myself. I'm working on a couple of things in my offensive game that I think is definitely going to prolong my career. I really consider myself more of a hybrid now, very similar to like Percy Harvin, where I can play receiver and running back. So I'm looking forward to growing more into that role. But when it comes to special teams, man, it's about just loving the game of football. You know, no NFL play goes meaningless. You know, every snap means so much. And anytime you can put your resume out there, I'm always going to try to do my best. So I got a couple opportunities at gunner. I never played gunner before, but I made a couple of key tackles, and I almost made the Pro Bowl as a special teamer last year. So that's crazy. You know, I never thought that I would be in that role, but I'm embracing it every step of the way.
Yeah, man, and that just proves the teammate that you were, that I knew you were, that all the people you played with are. And I mean, I'm excited to see you continue to grow and develop in that role. You signed in free agency this year, and everyone I've talked to in the league, I've talked to some Brent Qualley, Spencer Long, and free agency was kind of a mess this year with COVID and everything going nuts. How did it go down for you? Did it go pretty seamlessly easy for you, or were there some hoops you had to jump through with the COVID stuff going on, or because you were with the Vikings, was it fairly easy transition, or did you find it kind of difficult this year?
It was a couple of hoops, but as a running back, there's always hoops, man. We always get the short end of the stick when it comes to free agency, in my opinion. But it was kind of up and down, man. Todd Gurley got released, and that definitely changed the running back market a lot. And then also with players not being able to come in and get physicals, it teams a little bit wary of signing guys too quick. Some guys were coming off of, season-ending like nicks and bruises and stuff like that. Luckily, I did have the great rapport that I have with Minnesota, so they were the first team to reach out to me. I shopped around, but at the end of the day, I felt like it was a good place for me to continue to transition in my career, continue to build myself as a player, and hopefully when I'm back at the table next year, it'll be a whole different circumstance.
Again, we want to thank Ameer joining us here on Husker Huddle. We also want to thank Sapp Brothers, are sponsoring the Husker Huddle, and they want to remind you that their top priority is to keep guests and teammates safe. Sapp Brothers is offering a full service at the pump as our nation relies on drivers and farmers now more than ever to provide essentials to our community. Sapp Brothers is committed to serving you. Ameer, there's a lot going on in the world right now, man. Things are shutting down. Things are talking about reopening up. I find it interesting talking to NFL players as far as what are you doing to stay in shape, because everyone's doing something different. Everything's finding ways. They have to find a way. What are some things during this whole crisis here that you've been doing to be able to keep yourself in shape so that whenever you do show up for OTAs, whether that's in a month or whether that's in 3 months, you're ready to go to make that team and make an impact that you want to make this year?
Really, I'm just listening to my body. You know, like everything is by ear right now. So we started virtual meetings actually Monday. So they kind of gave us some things to expect. But like you said, no one knows exactly when we're going to be able to get back. And I think for a veteran player like myself going into my 6th year, the most important thing you can do right now is listen to your body. I know a lot of guys were training to reach a peak point to be good for OTAs, but like you said, OTAs may not be when they typically are. It's probably going to be later, maybe like July or something. So I think it's about scaling back and working on little things right now, not going extremely hard with a lot of the high velocity workouts, box jumps, things like that. Working on balance, working on core strength, working on, proprioception, catching, the fundamentals. That's what I've really gotten back to, the things that you don't always tap into. As someone who's played football since I was 6 years old, you can sometimes get to a point where you overlook the little things like footwork, running backs. We really work on our tracks, making sure we're on line with offensive linemen when they're, pulling up to the next level, a lot of things like that. And, of course, watching film. It's you got a lot more time just to watch film and watch yourself and to really reevaluate where you need to get better. So when that time starts to approach where we get a clear idea of when we can get back, then we can start picking things up with a better foundational structure to ourselves.
I mean, Ameer, talk to me, explain it to me. I haven't been a part of it. What are these virtual OTAs looking like? I'm sure it varies from team to team, but how are the Vikings handling this?
It's pretty much just meetings. It's like meetings. You're in meetings. You're learning the installs, week by week, day by day, going over the new things that you may put in, going over some things that may change around the facility. I think the Vikings are doing a really good job right now, just keeping everybody in tune. Because when you're away from football, sometimes you can't kind of lose track of what you're supposed to be doing, or maybe the playbook and things like that. But we're doing a good job of communicating well within position groups as a team, the whole 9 yards, just to keep everybody ready to hit the ground running when we get back.
Absolutely. Ameer, we had the draft here not too long ago. What did you think of it? Did you like the virtual draft? Did you miss the hugs of the guys walking across the stage? I mean, I personally, I thought I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing the coaches at home with their families and the players at home, safe environment with their families, cameras not right in their face. What were your thoughts?
I had mixed emotions because, for one, the drafts, it seems to be going a little bit quicker, even though that first round is still too long in my opinion.
Way too long.
It's way too long in my opinion, but I appreciated how quickly and how smoothly they could do and conduct that whole thing with all these different players on webcams. That was amazing. But at the same time, I think it is a special moment for a lot of guys who were potential first rounders, second rounders, to walk across the stage, hug the commissioner, and to be recognized for the hard work that he put in up to that point. But at the end of the day, you know what it is. It's about playing football. It's not about wearing suits and shaking hands. So I think the virtual draft is something that could catch on, but I know they said they're going to try to do it in Vegas again next year. Said that. So I think it's just an event that was needed for a lot of people because we've been in a sports drought for a long time. So I think a lot of viewers and consumers really just appreciated anything they could get. So I think it was pretty successful.
Absolutely. Amir, as we wrap up here, I want to talk about something I've seen you doing, and I respect the hustle. I respect the grind. Your do-rag talks on Instagram. They're like mini podcasts. They're awesome. I listen to them all the time. Where did this idea come about? If people want to listen to it, where can they find it? And kind of what was the brainchild that made that a reality?
Yeah, so the story might take you by a little bit by surprise.
Okay.
But they're just talks. They're also on my YouTube page as well.
Okay.
blogs and just some things that are on my mind sometimes, some little messages that I hope people can receive well. It started when I was living in LA like 2 years ago, and being African American from the South, the do-rag is something that is very culturalistically valued in our community, where it keeps your hair up and things like that. So, I got dreadlocks, so when I go to sleep, I wear a do-rag to keep my hair together. And there was a miscommunication with someone in public who thought that my do-rag was a symbol of like criminal activity when I was out. And I had to just let her know, like, no, this isn't anything like I'm not going to come in and wear this to rob you. I'm just doing this for my own personal care. And from that, I just really took on the responsibility of debunking a lot of myths that come along with the attire that a lot of African Americans wear, that we're not, we can be confused a lot of times when it comes to our intellect and other things that, make us who we are. So I wanted to take ownership in that by wearing a do-rag during every single last one of my, my vlogs, and giving really good information and education to people as much as I can.
That's awesome, man. Like I said, I watch him. I appreciate him. I respect what you're doing out there. We got to talk a little Husker Ball before I let you out of here. Very unknown in the college football world. We have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, we've been told that football won't happen as long as school doesn't happen, but who knows? I mean, this Husker team is full of question marks all around the board, and not having a spring ball make those even bigger question marks. But being in 6 years removed now, Ameer, going into Scott Frost's third season, what are you just looking for from this Husker team this year, going into year 3 of the Scott Frost regime, and seeing what kind of growth they can make?
I think one of the toughest things to watch last year was just how they finished games at times. I can remember looking back at the Colorado game as one game in specific where I was like, wow, this team has to get more of a killer instinct and, to finish games. And I don't think they're as far off as a lot of people think. Of course, there are a lot of question marks with the D-line. I know I saw the two Davis twins got drafted. Yep. Congrats, guys. Filling in some of those holes is definitely some question marks that need to answer. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's about mentality. And I think Scott Frost is starting to get his philosophies across to guys, that you can't slack off any minute of the game. You can't think just because you're up right now that won't change really fast, because, I mean, you see it in the NFL. The 2-minute drive is where a lot of teams win games. You look at the Super Bowl this last year, Kansas City was down with like 5 minutes left. They came back and won that game. Critical moments like that, I think Nebraska can definitely learn from a lot of those examples. And I think when they look back, whenever they can get back together, when they look back at the film, they're going to be encouraged, at least on a positive note, of we were in a lot of games. Now, how do we finish?
Absolutely. I can't agree more. I think that you nailed it when you said earlier, every play counts. And I think that the more that people learn that here on the Husker program, the better they're going to be. Ameer, thank you so much. That wraps up this edition of Husker Huddle presented by Sapp Brothers. Special thank you to Mr. Ameer Abdullah for joining us. We're excited to watch you this year in the Minnesota Vikings, Ameer. Excited to keep up with you on Instagram and Twitter and follow you along with the do-rag talks and everything you're doing in the community. It's awesome. I appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Sirles. See you, brother.
Absolutely. Take care.